The state of Texas has never before played host to a World Cup qualifier for the U.S. men's national team. But let me tell you, the capital city, Austin, is ready. Coming up, we start the build-up to kickoff ahead of a huge Concacaf World Cup qualifier between the visiting Jamaicans and Gregg Berhalter and his very young but very talented U.S. men's national team. Our pregame coverage starts right here, right now. Beautiful, brand new Q2 Stadium, opened just under 4 months ago. It's played host to some big games for Austin FC, but nothing bigger than the moments it's about to live tonight as the United States men's national team faces Jamaica in Concacaf World Cup qualifying. Alongside a couple World Cup veterans and veterans of the U.S. men's national team, Kasey, Keller, Jermaine Jones, I'm Sebastian Salazar. It is great to be with you ahead of what we expect to be not just a great game, but guys, a great atmosphere here at Q2. You're not just going to hear from the three of us, though, throughout this show. We got John Champion, Taylor Twellman up in the booth. We got Sam Borden roaming the sidelines. You're going to hear from him in just a little bit with some big interviews as well. But guys, as we kind of wait for folks to catch up to us online, why don't we set the scene here a little bit? What we've seen in the city of Austin over the last couple days, it really does seem, Kasey, like this city is ready for this event. Well,
100%. I mean, Jermaine and I were talking off camera that not only is it the city of Austin, but right now we have such a hungry fan base that I'm sure there's people flying in from all over the country. They got tickets to this game and they said, look, we're coming to Austin. If we can get tickets, we'll be there. We'll fly here to support this team and make sure that they stay on track to qualify.
We will definitely hear from the team, and whether they're ready or not. You think this town is ready for this? You think these fans are ready for this, Jermaine?
To be honest, like, if you just look around, like, it's getting more packed, more and more people coming, and I think it's like, look at the stadium. What do you want better? It's a soccer stadium. It's
beautiful pitch, everything. I mean, it's set up to be fantastic.
So what you're telling me is there's no excuses tonight, then, correct?
Yeah.
Jermaine, I should note, this is your first time with us here on ESPN. What you been doing? You've been diving into some coaching classes and stuff like that?
Yeah, right now, so I'm working on my coaching badges. Doing right now the UEFA Pro license, and my main goal will be then at one point, like, for sure, coaching MLS, coaching professional league. That's my goal.
Absolutely. All right, plenty more on that a little bit later on. Let's get you caught up where the U.S. stands after those first 3 matches in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. 1 win, 2 draws, leaves them with 5 points and leaves them in a 3-way tie for second place. Again, remember, top 3 go automatically to the World Cup, 4th place into the Intercontinental Playoff. However, it could have been a lot worse. We might be singing a totally different tune, Kasey, if not for an explosive and historic second half in that last of the 3 games against Honduras.
Yeah, look, there's no question. The first couple games were underwhelming. The first half against Honduras, extremely underwhelming. But they responded. They made adjustments at halftime. They got the goals. They looked dynamic. 5 points looks a heck of a lot better than 2 or 3 points. But now it's a case of stepping in here with these next 3 matches, 2 of them at home. The expectation has to be at least 6 points at home, probably 7 points with a point on the road. And look, I'm totally optimistic. I'm looking at 9 points.
Wow. You agree with that? 9 points? Is that realistic? I mean, we just got to say it's not here. No Pulisic, no Reyna, no Ream, no Brooks. 9 points?
But look at it this way. Like, we're talking about the generation. They're like the best, right? That is what everybody's saying. So now, take out all the names you say. Like, they're all just maybe the starters. But now you have the opportunity for all the other guys who have the chance to maybe come in and play. Show what you can. Show it to the fans. You have a full house today. You have to show up. This is the first where I believe you have the win. You have to get your first 3 points. And maybe I'm not going with Kasey with 9 points, but I would say you have at least 6, and then you have a tie in Panama, so you're going out with 7 points, and I think you will be happy with that.
I'd be very, very happy with that. You win your home games, steal a point on the road. Look, and if you slip up against Panama, it's not the end of the world. Win your home games, but I think it was a wake-up call those first 3 games. I think Gregg was starting to figure out which players he can count on in games that matter. Look, friendlies, Gold Cups, Nations League, they're all great. It's all great preparation, but can you really prepare for the pressure and the increased intensity of a World Cup qualifier? This is a young team. They have very little experience in these types of matches, so you have to give them a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
But they got that.
I think you can see it in the game against Honduras, right? Like you have that two teams actually, you can say. First half, we have to be honest, it was not good, you know? We can talk about, was it a tactical mistake for maybe the coach, you know? But then at the end, they all led up to it, you know?
Yes.
Gregg made a change. They went from a 5-2-3 into a 4-3-3, and it worked, you know? The subs came in, the subs, they scored all the goals, you know? So I want to see this team today exactly how we ended with Honduras.
Start with that intensity.
Exactly.
So the lineup has just dropped. We're going to get to it all in just a minute. But one thing we found out yesterday in Gregg Berhalter's press conference was that Weston McKennie would indeed be in the starting lineup tonight. That, of course, after he was suspended for the last 2 matches of the last qualifying window, after not once, but twice breaking COVID-19 protocols in Nashville. For more on his rejoining the team, and in fact rejoining the starting lineup, let's send it down to the field now with our Sam Borden. Sam?
Sebi, good evening, guys. Yeah, it was a month ago that Weston McKennie stood in front of the team in that Nashville hotel and apologized for breaking COVID protocols. Since then, he hasn't spoken to the fans or the news media about what happened that night. We made several requests to interview him this week, and he turned us down, leaving the coach and players to speak on his behalf. Gregg Berhalter says there is some work that needs to be done in terms of mending the fences, in terms of trust with his teammates, but it's a young group. Mistakes are going to happen, and he feels as though it's a forgiving atmosphere. The players largely said the same. They want to move on. I spoke yesterday with Walker Zimmerman. He said that there's no big issue here, that Weston understands the responsibilities and expectations going forward. He said Weston is a great teammate, and that means we're behind him 100%. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Sam. Here is the U.S. lineup. Matt Turner in goal at right back. Serginho Dest operating in a back four alongside Walker Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, and Anthony Robinson. A pretty young back four there for Gregg Berhalter. In the midfield, we got the three of Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and Yunus Musah. And then up top, it'll be Paul Arriola, Brenden Aaronson, and the new sensation of American soccer, Ricardo Pepi, getting yet another start up top. All right, Kasey, first look at it. What do you think?
Well, we knew it's going to be a young lineup. I mean, there was no question about that, just the way that this squad is shaken up over the last, year or so. Obviously, some disappointments with Pulisic and Reyna not being available. John Brooks as well gives some experience. I think that's a big reason why Walker Zimmerman's in this squad, to give a little bit more experience into what's a young side. Look, Anthony Robinson, I thought, came in and did fantastically well, particularly against Canada. Got the assist on the goal and looked dynamic coming from that position. Hopefully, he was a little nicked up. I hear he's doing all right. He's obviously in the starting lineup. Midfield, that's where you really, for me, you got to rely on. You got to rely on McKennie and Tyler Adams. Yep. And then up front, Pepi's a kid. Yep. Look, he came in, he looked good. Let's see how he builds off of that. And again, you're talking about Aaronson as he's the next Messi. I mean, let's bring it down just a little bit. These are some good players. It's a good side, but I got to see what I saw in that last 30 minutes against Honduras.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think it's like you watch this team now, and I think they're young. They have the quality. This is, I believe, they have the quality. Are they too young?
Is that team that we just saw too young, you think?
I don't think so. At one point, you have to put them out there, right? And you have to trust them to show what they can. And we talked already before that there's not really one first 11. Yeah. Out there what Gregg Berhalter was playing the whole time, right? So he's always mixing up. He has always different players on the board in trying different people. So now he has, with like Reyna and Christian, like two really good top players out. So now it's opportunity for the other guys. And guys, with all the respect to Jamaica, we play Jamaica. We have to go in here and have to get 3 points. And I don't care really who's on the field. You represent America. You represent our colors. So that has to be enough for every of them, All
right, so you've heard our thoughts on the opening 11 tonight. Why don't we hear from the man who drew it up himself, Gregg Berhalter, just moments ago, speaking with our Sam Borden.
All right, here with Gregg Berhalter. Gregg, Weston McKennie back with you guys and in the lineup. How would you describe his re-entry this week?
I think it's normal. Players understand that things happen, and we have a group that that gives second chances, and that's all it's about. But you know, his integration back in the group has been completely normal. You know, he's doing a good job. He's focused, ready to go.
You know, you're sending out a very young lineup tonight. A big part of that, obviously, is Musah. You talked about wanting to see him on the field. What are you hoping to see from him tonight?
Well, he's been performing great in La Liga. Dynamic player, good dribbling with the ball, can make a final pass. You know, he's an exciting player. I think he's going to, you know, really entertain the fans tonight. We're looking forward to him being dynamic and making things happen.
Thanks so much.
Great perspective there from the manager. Let's welcome in the two gentlemen who will be calling tonight's match, John Champion and Taylor Twellman. Guys, we just heard first there the words on Weston McKennie. What do you think of how Gregg Berhalter has handled this situation? Not just bringing him back into the team, but putting him right back into the starting lineup.
Well, one thing's for sure, there will be strong opinions on either side. Okay. Either he's lucky to be back in, or he shouldn't have been suspended in the first place. I've heard that full range of views expressed. Where do you stand on it, Taylor, now?
I'm completely fine with how Gregg Berhalter's handled the entire situation, including putting him back into this lineup. And yet, a lot of the time, I've been asked about this, what's your biggest takeaway of the September round of games? And John, I think we need to remind everyone, 16 players, that is a U.S. men's national team record, made their World Cup qualifying debuts. That includes Weston McKennie. And so, no matter the pedigree of the club by which you play at, the player still is reminded that World Cup qualifying, no matter where you are in the world, is very difficult, and your commitment to the team is at utmost the most important thing. And I think when you look at that from Gregg Berhalter's perspective, he pushed the right buttons, not because Weston McKennie may buy in, because the entire group is now bought in, and they won against Honduras. Jermaine, Kasey, they know this better than anyone. If they didn't win against Honduras, it's a bigger concern tonight. I have absolutely no issues whatsoever with how Gregg's handled it.
And we were just listening to Seb asking Jermaine and Kasey whether it was too youthful a lineup. 4 players, 20 or under, 2 teenagers. Where do you stand on that?
See, I'm okay with it because of what I just said. They got that experience out of it. So now they're a little bit more humbled. They're not as naive and saying, you know, we're going to talk the talk and we're going to have 9 points out of 9 games. All of a sudden, everything's been tempered down a little bit. And a lot of that comes off the shoulders of their captain, Tyler Adams. Now, the biggest concern I have for Gregg Berhalter and the U.S. men's national team is what we saw in that game against Honduras. They wanted to move him out from the middle. Under no circumstances should you move Tyler Adams from the number 6 position, because he does so many little things that are so important. We've got Jermaine Jones with us for the first time. A lot of these things Jermaine Jones did for the U.S. men's national team. If Dest isn't good at defending and you're in trouble in wide areas, he can cover it up. If you want to press numbers forward and you need to put out a fire, Tyler Adams can get you there. But then there's also moments where he can step into the midfield, win possession, and play the right ball. Tyler Adams is the complete package at that number 6 position, and it's vital for the United States and Gregg Berhalter that he gets that. But Jermaine, this is where I want to bring you into the conversation, because when you were at your peak with the U.S. men's national team, it was you, it was Michael Bradley, it was Kyle Beckerman, and some of us, it was even Jeff Cameron against Belgium in the World Cup round of 16 game. Would you ever think about moving Tyler Adams from that position, because you've played it better than any of us here?
No, definitely not. I said this before when we had the conversation yesterday about the whole situation, and I said it before here too, where I said the whole system with the 5-3 or the 5-2-3 was completely not good, and especially not for Tyler Adams. So he was out of his position, and we need him as a number 6. We need him in that middle, that he can control the game. He can go, you know, can attack. He can win battles, and I think he's too important in that middle right now. And he shows that, you know, with his qualities, and I hope that today he can show it too.
Taylor made the comparison there. Do you see any similarities between your game and his?
You know, I said it in the beginning once, like, people came and they said, like, what do you think? Is he better? And I said, look, I think in the age where he is now, he is better than I was in my age. That's what it is. I have no problem. But hey, I tell you this, if we will have to battle, I will not back down. So that's pretty easy.
Well, I don't doubt that.
I still think I was a better goalkeeper than he was. So I think.
All
right,
let's talk a little bit about the midfield trio. We got a lot of talent. We got a lot of big clubs, but we got a lot of youth and a lot of inexperience. Musah, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie. What are we looking for out of that trio tonight?
You know, what I said before, we lose the whole midfield in Honduras, right? Now we have Weston, we have Tyler, we have Musah. They have to go, they have to show the difference, you know, like, especially now with Weston. I think what Gregg Berhalter did was amazing, you know. Putting him on the field takes away all the pressure from the team, and the pressure's on him because he messed it up. Weston messed it up, and now he has to show up, and I think that's like so important now, and I think he
I think the one
up.
thing I want to see from Weston is not to try to regain all that trust in 5 minutes and think I'm going to run around, I'm going to do everything, I'm going to score the goals, I'm going to stop goals. No, play your game well. And we know what Weston's game is. Win the ball and give it. Support. Late runs into the box. Be very dangerous on set pieces. Weston's not the guy that, Weston's not Zidane. Weston's not, he's not going to just control the game and take people on and do it. No. Play his game right, and that will be the best thing that this team needs.
Jermaine, is it a case that maybe we see the Weston McKennie we saw at Schalke compared to the one we see coming out of Juventus?
You know, I love the Weston who played in Schalke. I loved him because it's exactly what you said. He was working, he was taking tackles, he was doing all that stuff. Now, if I see Weston Juventus, to be honest, when we watched the last training session, he's just completely, you know, maybe too comfortable with himself, you know, and this is why he makes mistakes. So I hope today he can show everybody and prove everybody different.
I will say this, he's got a great record of big goals in big games. Scored a couple of knockout round goals in the Gold Cup in 2019. Hey, and Kasey, he scored a goal in the Nations League final, but in the game that we saw in the last round of World Cup qualifying, it wasn't the same Weston.
But what is the old adage? You work on your weaknesses, but you play to your strengths.
Yeah.
His strength is what Jermaine just said. Working hard, winning games, showing up late in the box, being a threat aerially. He's not the biggest guy, but he jumps really well. He times really well. He's dangerous. Sometimes teams take it for granted. He's not going to be as good in the air as he actually is. So play to your strengths. And that's what I want to see today.
The one player we haven't mentioned in this midfield is Aaronson and Musah. I mean, this is a guy who's really just breaking through at Valencia. Are you surprised to see him in?
I'm not, because of the players that are missing. Now, what I want to see from him is a fearlessness. I want to see him find himself in good positions to press the play, to take players on, to try to be creative. Don't be afraid of just losing the ball. Don't lose the ball in dangerous areas, but when you're in the attacking third of the player, use everything that Gregg Berhalter just said while you're in that lineup.
There's a lot of stars on this team, but frankly, guys, in the last round of qualifying, I wouldn't say they didn't show up, but that they didn't produce. Right? We had Christian Pulisic, who played in 2 of the 3 games, left injured, didn't score. Giovanni Reina just one of the matches. Zach Steffen, no games. Weston McKennie, the 1 match, 90 minutes. We talk a lot about these guys, but flat up, it was them that didn't bring it.
Yeah, it's you know, if you watched the last game against Honduras, actually, it sounds bad, but the team started playing better when Christian got out.
How do we explain that?
You know, sometimes it's a problem too, because you have to get this like out of the head of the players that's just trying to find that main guy the whole time. It's because sometimes that's easy, but there's not only America has that problem. We have you see this with Argentina with Lionel Messi. You know, I don't want to compare them guys to Lionel Messi, but
you just did.
Yeah, but you can see at the end it's like they're important for this team, and when they're on the field, people know, oh, we have to give them the ball and start maybe trusting themselves, and that's, I think it's a different.
I think sometimes it also comes to the point where those players put too much pressure on themselves in thinking, when I get this ball, I need to beat 4 players and score the goal. No, let it play naturally, the way that you play. Trust your teammates. Combine, make things happen. It doesn't have to be you every time.
So Brenden Aaronson is one of the guys that will fill in and hope to fill the shoes of Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna in those out wide roles. Moments ago, he spoke with our Sam Borden. Let's listen in.
Here with Brenden Aaronson. Brenden, a bit of a roller coaster emotionally in the first window. How would you describe the mindset of the team coming into this window?
Yeah, just I think everybody's focused and ready to go. I mean, yeah, last camp was tough for us, but I mean, we're in second place still, so there's a little pressure, but I think we're ready for it and we're ready to go for today.
2 goals for you in the first window. What did you see from the attack that you hope to continue in this window?
Yeah, just scoring goals. I think that's every attacker's dream, is to score goals for your national team. So that's what I'm going to try to be, just goal dangerous today and just be dangerous when I get it and just help the team.
What do you expect from Jamaica as an opposition tonight?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to come out and they're going to be aggressive, and we know that's them because we played them a few times this year, and they're going to be aggressive. They're going to look to defend, and yeah, it's going to be tough for us, but I think we're all focused and ready to go.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
starting to fill in here at Q2. The volume raising by the minute as the fans trickle in. So we just heard there from Brenden Aaronson. I guess that's the question here, right? There's a lot of talent, but is the depth enough to fill in for guys like Pulisic and Reyna, specifically when we talk Aaronson, Kasey?
Look, I think Aaronson is one of those kids that he showed that his transition, from MLS to Europe has been very good. And he's continued that on with the national team. When he's gotten his opportunities, he's proven that. So you have to know when you're going through a qualifying cycle, you're not going to have your stars for every game. So you need other guys to step up and become stars themselves. I think nobody's done a better job stepping into that role than Aaronson has in filling that void that's been left, and also maybe not achieved by other players when they've been on the pitch.
Jermaine, what do you like about his game?
It's simple. As a coach, you want your offense players to go in and score goals, because when you score goals, you win games. And he said that in an interview. He said, I want to score goals, and that is my job. And I think in all the games he played, he showed that he can be dangerous and he can help this team. If he can push somebody out from the guys who's missing, you don't know. But at least he can make it tough for them. If he scores goal, he plays good. I think he has the quality, and he showed that so far in the games he played.
So on the opposite wing from Brenden Aaronson, we've got Paul Arriola. Now, I think Paul Arriola is a name that even when the roster came out, a lot of fans were kind of surprised to see him in. They're going to be really surprised, Kasey, aren't they, to see him in the 11 tonight? What does he bring?
A tenacity. Arriola is a guy that's going to run, chase, fight for everything on the field. Maybe the name isn't a Gio Reyna or a Pulisic, but you can guarantee that the guy that's playing against him on that side knows that he was in a game. Now the question for Paul is, can he then, execute in those moments when you need that final pass, that final touch? It's not going to come from lack of effort. And I think that's one thing that Gregg wants to start early on. We saw in a couple of those matches in the opening round, it was slow. It was a lot of touches, bringing it around the back. Now, Paul's going to press, he's going to attack, he's going to win balls in tough areas, and he's going to get that energy from the first minute.
We keep hearing the word verticality from Gregg Berhalter. Is that what he's looking for from Paul Arriola?
Yeah, with what Kasey's saying. With him, you get he will press, he will go. He will not stop running. That's how easy it is. He will be on his feet the whole time. And I think especially now, a game like this against Jamaica, you need guys who really press, because that team is a physical team. We all know they have speed, they can run, and that's what we need the first maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes to show that we on their feet. And somebody like Paul, he's one of the guys.
When you're in that 4-3-3, and let's say Aaronson has the ball on the left-hand side, and you've got Ricardo Pepi up top. Well, you need someone to support him. So you need the guy on the opposite side to work so hard to get in and help. You need somebody out of that midfield trio to support, making that 20, 30-yard run out of midfield to support up front. So you need those energy levels. Now, I know for a fact that when Aaronson gets the ball left and he looks like he's going to get an opportunity to get the ball in the box, Arriola will be working hard to get in from that right-hand side, and vice versa. Aaronson will be doing the same.
And, of course, the guy that will be sandwiched in the middle of those two wingers, none other than Ricardo Pepi, having a great season with FC Dallas, had a great second half against Honduras. Just how good is this kid, Kasey?
Well, I think we still have to temper that a little bit, because I thought for 60 minutes in that Honduras game, he looked out of his depth. But what I love from a young kid, and I love from a striker, when it's not clicking for you, you don't quit. Because what are you judged at by a striker? Scoring a goal, helping out with another goal. And he did exactly that. He kept fighting, he kept going. He picks himself off the ground to get himself on the score sheet. And that shows from a young kid to be able to do that. Impressive.
Is he the best striker the U.S. has?
I'll say this. He's a good kid, He has qualities. That game against Honduras, you were able to see his qualities, not only that he scored, that how he worked, he had an assist. Playing the number 9 in front there alone is, hey, if you're going down there, that's not easy to play, and he made it. And so, but now, I'm with you, keep it easy, help him to build, help him to grow, and make it easy for him, not throw him out there and just make him now the game changer for every game.
Yes.
We got a midfielder. We got a goalie. We probably need a striker's perspective on this, right? So let's bounce it back up to the booth. We got John Champion and Taylor Twellman looking for a striker. Maybe we'll find him up there.
I'm not going to find one up
eventually.
here.
John was such a good striker.
He was. Well, look how tall he is, Kasey. He should be.
Yeah, and Taylor's on a box as well. You wouldn't believe it, would you?
I'll ask you the same question I posed to Jermaine. Is Ricardo Pepi the best U.S. men's national team striker right now?
I'll say yes, because I just see so much in him. It's only, 2 years since he made his debut as a 16-year-old. His first senior goal was only 18 months ago. I just think that every challenge that's been thrown in his path, he's cleared the hurdle with flying colours. He's cleared it by a margin. I mean, there was that hat-trick against the Galaxy, 13 goals in the Major League Soccer season so far. So really, I can't criticise him. And I know that many of the leading European clubs are taking more than a second look at him. They're taking a third, fourth and fifth now.
Absolutely. And I understand what Kasey and Jermaine are talking about, because you do want to temper expectations, because we've seen throughout U.S. soccer history of what those expectations can do. I think the expectations are right on the mark with this one. And there is a fantastic article and story on ESPN.com about his family story and the chip on his shoulder to really take this to an all-time high of where he wants to go. He's a different profile than the United States have ever had. I said to you this morning over breakfast, and I even said it to Gregg Berhalter yesterday, he reminds me of a young Van Nistelrooy in the sense that he's very mobile in the channels, he's good with his back to goal, he's got a sixth sense in and around the 18-yard box. But my favorite part about him is he's raw.
Yes.
So he doesn't know anything of what's going on. And right now, when you're coming off the worst moments in your program's history of failing to qualify for the World Cup, Giazzi Zardes is a serviceable option. Why not roll the dice? Why not see what you get? Because tonight, if he puts in a performance where he's dominant with his back to goal, he's a huge part in the play in the final third, then you've got yourself a real center forward for maybe the next 10 to 12 years. He's not going to be in Major League Soccer long. We all know that. I just think there's something special with this one, and I think he knows that, and I kind of like that about him.
Yeah, very quick final point on Pepi. As you know, Seb, we meet with Major League Soccer coaches ahead of games we're broadcasting. 2 years ago, we were meeting with Luchi Gonzalez, renowned developer of young talent, and we were throwing all sorts of young names coming through at FC Dallas at him and saying, how good is he going to be? How good is he going to be? And at the end of the conversation, he said, you can forget all these guys we've been talking about so far. There's only one name, really, when it comes to top-level development, and that's a guy you haven't seen yet. He's playing for North Texas. His name's Ricardo Pepi.
Let's not temper that expectation too much.
Let's ride the hype train straight ahead.
By throwing out Van Nistelrooy, I think he reminds me of a young Lewandowski, or maybe.
Let me ask you this, because the guys just mentioned it there. You think he's ready for the jump right now to Europe?
Do you want him to play week in and week out? Depending on what that jump is. Is that jump to an RB Salzburg or an RB Leipzig? There's a different jump there, and I think that's the part.
Does he need to move from MLS?
I think eventually, yeah. I mean, I think like anybody, you're always pushing yourself to get to the highest level possible. The fact that MLS is now having a different mindset than maybe they had 4 or 5 years ago. And we're seeing a number of players now being developed at a young age, being sold with the sell-on after that. And we'll wait and see what FC Dallas wants to do. We'll wait and see what Ricardo Pepi, what his ambitions are. But I think he's done an excellent job to this point, and we're going to wait and see how high that shelf can go.
You think he's ready for Europe?
You know, you only know if he's ready if he's over there and you can see what he's doing, right? So for me, as an ex-player playing overseas, I would say if you have the chance, you have to take it, because you will learn. And we all don't know if he will make it. We cannot say he's not making it and then he goes over and he's making it. So at the end, he has qualities. It shows that teams are interested in him. So if at the end it's him, how hungry he is for himself to
be like, if the price is right, if he's ready for it,
he has to be ready. It's not the money. It's
100%.
He has to be ready, and he has to say, I'm ready to battle, because over there you have the battle, and he knows that.
Very much the flavor of the month then in American soccer. That means you get a lot of interview requests. Earlier this week, he sat down with our Sam Borden. Here's a little bit of it.
It was a weird play, you know. It was a weird play because if you watch the play, you watch the game, you know, 4 seconds before I scored the goal, I was on the ground because an Honduras defender had tripped me, you know, but then I saw that one of my teammates, the Arriola, had the ball out wide. And I know it was a good chance for me to, you know, be able to get off the ground and win the header. So, you know, I lifted off the ground and I went for the header and I scored a goal.
What did it feel like when you saw the ball hit the back of the net?
Oh, it was exciting. You know, it was an amazing feeling to just be able to go on top. You know, it was a very hard game where we were losing 1-0 and then we came back. So it was a special feeling. It was a special moment for me.
It wasn't that long ago that you were playing in the USL playoffs in a couple years. If I had asked you then where you'd be 2 years later, what do you think you would have said?
I don't know. You know, it's a hard question to ask, you know, because I don't think I would say I'm here right now. You know, I'd be saying that I'd probably be in the MLS now, you know, maybe even getting some minutes. So, you know, it's hard to really tell where I would be, and you know, I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy to be here too. You
came onto this national team. It feels like a very quick thing, but I'm guessing that the decision to play for the U.S. was probably something that you were thinking about for a long time.
That process was complicated just because, you know, I have my family who's at home. You know, they're Mexican. I grew up watching Mexican soccer. I grew up watching the Mexican national team. But then, you know, I started growing up, and then I started getting my opportunities with the U.S. I started, you know, representing the U.S. and youth national teams, and I started feeling something for the Crest. So, you know, I'm here now. I feel like I've made the best decision for me and for my family, and, you know, just go on and do the most out of it.
Does it feel different this time around? I mean, obviously, you know, there's a certain emotion that comes with the first qualifying window. Now, you're doing this again.
I feel like it's the same feeling. You know, I feel motivated. I feel excited to be able to help the team, to be able to be in the roster. So, you know, I'm ready to work. Yeah, I think it's important to know that, you know, no game in World Cup qualifiers is going to be easy. You know, every opponent is going to be tough. You know, so we got to prepare for that. I feel like I got to prepare for that, and I'm ready for whatever's next.
Ricardo Pepi then in the starting 11 for the U.S. men's national team as we get closer and closer to kickoff against Jamaica here at Q2 in Austin, Texas. There he is, the man of the hour, wearing the number 16, basically a home game for him. As Sam mentioned, their place just up the road in FC Dallas. And Kasey, we should probably mention, of course, he is Mexican-American. He is a dual national. The Mexican Federation was very, very interested in this kid. It's a huge win for U.S. soccer,
Why are you
isn't it?
bringing this up?
I think it's a huge win for U.S. soccer, that's why. Because I know there's a lot of Mexican fans, I don't know any of them near me at this moment, who are very disappointed that this kid didn't choose Mexico. That's how good of a prospect
Look,
he
you
is.
and I have talked about this before. You know, it's really, in a lot of ways, a really simple decision. You sit down with the kid and you say, where's your heart at? Where's your passion at? Because if you got to go down in hostile territories, in Concacaf, in difficult circumstances, you have to know that you're fighting with everything to your core. And if you say, well, I'm not sure, the decision's made. Gregg goes to him and he says, I'm playing for America. Decision made.
There you go, Ricardo Pepi on the U.S. men's national team. A dual national. Speaking of dual nationals, the Jamaican team has a lot of dual nationals. Let's get a look at their starting 11 then under the manager, Theodore Whitmore. As you see, Major League Soccer, Andre Blake there backstopping this Jamaican 11. Kasey, where can they hurt the United States?
Well, you really think that they're going to try to use pace on the counterattack. You know, obviously Nicholson has scored a couple goals so far. He's the key, but it's not so much, I think, this starting lineup that Whitmore's dealing with. It's what could have been his starting lineup. And I think that's the side that's frustrating. Is they're looking at a side going, yes, they can hit some long diagonal balls, they can pack it in defensively, and they can use some good overall team pace. But if you throw Leon Bailey and Antonio into this side, now talk about a counterattacking opportunity.
That said, Jermaine, they played well on the road in those first two. I mean, they almost got a point against Mexico. They got a point away to Costa Rica. This is not a team to be slept on, right?
No, definitely not. But it's always, Jamaica has always been a team you have to be careful.
Correct.
Because they're physical, they have speed, and most of the time their game plan is sitting back, playing long balls, and try to catch you on a sleeping mistake or something. And that's what they're doing. And I remember when we played back in, and I'm pretty sure you too, they're taking shots from everywhere.
Yes,
These guys
correct.
can shoot. And sometimes it's like goes one in, and then you're like 1-0 back, and you're like, what the heck happened? You know, so you have to really focus, you know, so, you know, it's...
How many goals did you score for the U.S. men's national team?
I scored one in Portugal.
Yeah, everybody's been bringing...
And then I played, that's the one.
There it is, that was your first goal.
I don't know, you can give it to me because it was a deflection, you know, you see that? Oh, so I think the goalie will have it easy.
It all counts, right? It all counts.
So,
what do you think, own goal or goal?
It was on target,
yeah.
So it's a goal.
Hey, it was my first one. Come on, give it to me. It was my first
even though the goalkeeper would have thrown his hat on it.
Right.
But other than that, it's all good.
And where was that? Was that at RFK?
Yeah, it looked like RFK.
Washington. Yeah.
All right, a staple there. Boy, you can really hear the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, it's buzzing
audio.
now.
I think one thing we got to point out about Q2, there's a roof on this place.
Yeah.
I mean, it is loud. This is going to be a decided home field advantage for the U.S., isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, and I think we're really excited about that. I was speaking to some fans at a U.S. soccer event last night, and that was something that I brought up, that back in the day, you couldn't always guarantee that we were going to be playing a World Cup qualifier and feel like the home team. You know, U.S. soccer has gone a long ways into trying to make sure that certain venues, when you're playing against an opponent, you're going to have a decidedly pro-American crowd. This is going to be 90, 95, 99% pro-American, and you're going to hear it.
I think what you can say is, you can see that soccer has grown in this country.
100%.
Right? That we're getting better. The stadium's like, hey, if I would have the chance to put my shoes on, I would put my shoes on and go back out there. I'd say this right now.
And I'd be happy to watch you.
Kasey, not ready to suit back up then? Okay. So it is October 7th, 2021, and 20 years ago to the day, the U.S. beat Jamaica in a critical World Cup qualifier in Boston. The win actually sealed the U.S.'s participation in the 2002 World Cup. More importantly, it was the first game back for the U.S. after September 11th. So let's send it down for more with Sam Borden.
Yeah, Sebi, you guys have been talking about it. Obviously, a big 3 points tonight, but 20 years ago, a game with a very different meaning, an unforgettable night at Foxborough, and an emotion like no other.
26 days after the world changed forever, and only a few hours after America went to war, the U.S. men's national team tried to play a game.
The significance of this game obviously is dwarfed by developments in Afghanistan, but the game will take place and we will bring it to you.
It was October 7th, 2001. The U.S. desperately needed a win to boost their hopes of qualifying for the 2002 World Cup. But there was so much else to think about. During his pregame speech in the locker room, U.S. coach Bruce Arena told his players that American troops had just landed in Afghanistan. There was a moment of silence. The flags and banners rippled with new meaning. And the feeling at Foxborough Stadium was like nothing anyone had experienced before. So when Joe Max Moore scored his late game winner, it set off incredible celebrations, as well as some unforgettable singing.
Incredible scenes on so many levels at Foxborough that night, and one of the links between that game and this one is Ernie Stewart. You might have seen him in the highlights there. Started in the midfield in that game, and here tonight, of course, in his role as a top executive at U.S. Soccer. I ran into Stewart yesterday, asked him what he remembered about that game, and his eyes got so wide, guys. He said he will always remember the weight he felt walking out onto the field that night. He said, we weren't just playing for a spot in the World Cup. All of a sudden, it felt like we were playing for everyone who knows everything that makes this country great. Back to you, Sebi.
Great report there from Sam. Kasey, you were a part of that team. What do you remember?
Well, I remember we had lost the previous two matches and put us, we were in a really comfortable position, and that put us under some pressure. We came back and won that match, and then it was like 3 results went our way for us to qualify on that date. It was like it was destined to happen. I still remember in the celebrations afterwards, an Army soldier had given me his hat, and I still have the hat today. So it was a special day.
Claudio Reyna was the captain that day. He said the boys had a great night out in Boston. You remember anything about that?
No comment.
All right, let's get back out onto the pitch as warm-ups continue here at Q2 in Austin ahead of the U.S. and Jamaica. We're focusing in on Weston McKennie, of course, suspended for the last 2 matches of the last World Cup qualifying window after breaking COVID protocols during the U.S.'s time in Nashville ahead of their 1-1 draw against Canada. This is just a huge moment, Jermaine, in his career, isn't it?
Yeah, it's after everything what happened, now he has to come out here and he has to step it up, he has to show. And everything I say what sounds negative, but you know, I like this kid. This kid is good. This kid has qualities. I hope for him that he gets it right in his head, that he knows how important he can be for this group, to help this group, and yeah, focus on soccer, you know.
How much pressure do you think he's under?
Hey, he's under a lot of pressure, because the point is this. What I said before, Gregg Berhalter made it easy for himself because he said, I put him out there. Now it's you to have to shine. You have support from your teammates and everybody's supporting you. But now you have to show it in front of here. Full house, everybody look at you, and you have to show your qualities.
Next to McKennie in the midfield will be Tyler Adams, a kid who seems like he was just born to be the captain of this team, Kasey.
Yeah, no, Tyler, I think the progression from MLS to Germany has been fantastic. I think last season he had that little blip, and then he had to come out of it. And nothing makes you a better player than battling through injuries, maybe battling through form, and then re-emerging out the other side. This is one of those games that's calling out for a leader in midfield. You talked about the pressure that Weston's under. How can the man next to him help alleviate some of that pressure with a really good match?
Tyler Adams then in the center of the park, backstopping this US 11, none other than Matt Turner of the New England Revolution. Kasey, some discussion whether we might see Zach Steffen tonight. We might have a goalie controversy. Clearly, Gregg Berhalter going with Matt Turner. What do you think of the decision?
Well, I think I think you got to take it further back. I think you have to look at Zach Steffen's decision to go to Europe, to then go on loan to Fortuna Düsseldorf. And then when he went back to Man City, there was this big question. Was he going to play? Well, playing time has been limited. Gregg Berhalter, before Matt Turner emerged, there was no real controversy. Zach Steffen was the best goalkeeper regardless. Matt Turner put pressure. He came in and he performed, and he deserves to be playing this game right now. Now there's going to be some questions on Steffen. Can Steffen now retaliate and have a real good competition? Look, the competition between myself and Tony Meola, the competition between myself and Brad Friedel, and then a young Tim Howard coming up behind me. It's so important for all positions. And Turner has done a phenomenal job in turning this whole conversation around.
As a teammate, Jermaine, how important is it to have a goalie who's playing all the time, like a Matt Turner, versus a Zach Steffen who's not getting the minutes at City?
I think it's so important, to be honest, because goalkeepers need minutes. You know, you need minutes to play, and I think you can say that. If you don't get minutes and it's like you cold, like a cold goalkeeper goes in, because you cannot have the same. Like a training session or a game is different.
Completely.
So you need goalkeepers who have goals, and like I think Steffen is a good goalkeeper. Don't get me. We can be happy that we have two good goalkeepers. But right now, I think Matt Turner is in front of him, and you have to let him play because he plays good in New England and he makes a lot of noise for himself.
Zach Steffen, of course, plies his trade with Manchester City in the Premier League. On the other hand, Yunus Musah plying his trade with Valencia and La Liga. A young player, Kasey, but a young player, another dual national that this U.S. program fought for, and to their credit, pulled away from England.
Yeah, the disappointing with Musah is he kind of broke in last season, got some decent minutes, and then got injured at the beginning of preseason. And he kind of lost that start. He's now starting to get back to that fitness and form and working himself into more time at Valencia. Look, like any young player, you got to get those early steps and that confidence from your coaching staff and your teammates that you deserve to be there. Then it's what you do with that afterwards. Here's a massive opportunity with Pulisic and Gio Reyna not available for a young Yunus Musah to step in and prove to his teammates, his coaching staff, and the fans that he's the real deal.
I think what I like on it is he plays in La Liga, right? With Valencia, right? And so we all know that league is technical. This league is playing as attacking soccer. And maybe he can have his impact like one of the guys who's going forward, taking players on and all that stuff, you know. I'm really excited to see him start today, and I hope that he can prove everybody right.
Hey, speaking of attacking soccer, Serginho Dest, no surprise to see him in the lineup, but maybe a surprise, Kasey, to see him as a right back in a back four. That means some pretty serious defensive responsibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the big question mark on Serginho is can he grind out defensively when he's put under pressure? And also concentration-wise. Jermaine, you talked about how this Jamaica side will soak up pressure and then look to hit for a missed concentration. If your outside back's wandering around looking for the game, long ball over the back could be a pass. That'll be the question mark for Des today.
All right, very well then, gentlemen. We are just about half an hour to kickoff here at Q2 in Austin, Texas. Ricardo Pepi and the rest of the U.S. men's national team going through their final warm-ups ahead of this huge Concacaf World Cup qualifier. That'll do it for us here on the pregame show. In about 15 minutes, though, we will see you over on ESPN2, where our coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you over there in a quarter hour.